Hey everyone, this is Dr. Drizzle with the National Parks Expedition Challenge. Today we are in the Everglades National Park in southern Florida with Ranger Yvette. Ranger Yvette, thank you so much for having us here today.
Well, welcome to Everglades National Park.
We're thrilled to be here. So how did you get to the park? What is your career journey?
Oh, wow. You know, my journey is a little different than most. I actually started visiting Everglades National Park as a 6th grader. Although I was born and raised right here in South Florida, I did visit the park with my family, but I didn't realize it was a national park until I came with my classmates. I came to Everglades on a field trip and we camped for 3 days, 2 nights. And, you know, I really had such a wonderful time. But that, of course, stayed in the back of my mind. Fast forward, many years later, I became a teacher. And as a teacher, I started to bring my students to the very field trip that I experienced as a young child. And then lo and behold, many years later, here I am as a park ranger. So this is truly my backyard national park.
And this just came full circle with you. So something that happened to you in the 6th grade that really stuck. Like you wanted this experience and now you're creating those experiences for not just one classroom, but for multiple classrooms, which is really exciting. We know that the pathway into the national parks looks different to everyone. I will say my teachers out there that are looking for that second career, don't go yet. We still need you in the classroom, but this could be an option for you later on if you want to create these amazing outdoor experiences for your students. So Everglades, tell us about your backyard.
Absolutely. Everglades National Park was the first national park to be set aside for biological diversity, for the living things, for the plants and the animals. It is such a unique place, very different. It's a little hard to understand. In actuality, many people will drive through Everglades National Park and will miss it. They won't understand it. It's not until like you and I are right here, right, that we come out and we explore these ecosystems and we start pointing out the neat things, the details. That's when people understand and fall in love with this national park. But it is so instrumental, not only to the National Park Service, but to our community right here in South Florida.
Well, how many ecosystems could we find here at the Everglades?
We have about 9 main ecosystems, right? That's not including the tiny little holes or the periphyton and the algae and, you know, all of those little nooks and crannies. Our main ecosystems are about 9.
And where are we standing right now? What is this ecosystem and why is it important for us to be here?
Well, this is a very special ecosystem. This ecosystem is called the pine rocklands. So we have this Dade County / pine standing tall behind us and around us and completely dry ground. This is actually an endangered habitat. Very little of it left because the majority of it actually was built up in Miami-Dade County. It was the Miami Rock Ridge, the highest, driest areas. So when people started to move into Miami, of course, they wanted to take advantage of the higher, drier land. No one wanted their feet wet and alligators surrounding them, of course. So they actually made home in places just like this. Today, we only have a third left.
Well, why this tree? Like, why would this tree be important for building? I mean, I know it's wood, but what's special about it?
Oh, we have termites in South Florida, and this tree is termite resilient. Termites cannot get into it. It is just perfect to build homes in South Florida. It does really well with our humidity, does really well with the insects, so it is the perfect building material. The floors, the walls, people would really take advantage of them.
Why can't I find this in other places, though?
Well, this ecosystem has to be high and dry. So although there's pinelands all throughout, or pine trees all throughout the United States, this is considered a tropical ecosystem. So if we walk around, we're going to find some tropical plants, plants that don't exist anyplace else in the United States, are endemic to South Florida, like the Dade County slash pine or other small tropical trees. So it's really the coming together of the location and our perfect weather, if you will.
Well, our kids know the word endemic because they've heard of endemic crayfish. They've heard of the
Mm.
endemic newts that we find in some of the national parks. But I believe it's the first time we've had an endemic tree, which is kind of interesting. So we know that this is not the only flora and fauna you have here. Tell us about your animals and plants.
Absolutely. So most of the Everglades is actually underwater. So we actually have a freshwater system and a brackish water system as well as a saltwater system. So this freshwater system, you may have heard of the River of Grass. Well, that's where the River of Grass is that freshwater system meandering through our places, for example, like the Sawgrass Marsh, through our cypress domes, and that fresh water slowly moves through these ecosystems and eventually makes it down to the Florida Bay. Now, the Florida Bay is where you're going to find our mangroves. That's home of the crocodiles and the manatees, some more tropical species, of course. And that is a really important place, you see, because those mangroves are estuaries. They are nurseries for our tiny critters like our Florida shrimp and perhaps some snook and some grunts. And we have all kinds of wonderful wildlife down there. And of course, our baby crocodiles and manatees find refuge in those mangrove estuaries. So as you go out into the Florida Bay, then you have that brackish ecosystem turn into saltwater, where you'll then find our bottlenose dolphins and many different sharks and turtles and still manatees, of course. Manatees are so diverse and so cute.
Well, if we didn't want to get our feet wet, what
Uh-huh.
animals could we find here? Because I'm sure there's some larger animals around us, possibly.
Well, you know, Everglades is known for alligators, and many times our mammals may not necessarily be well known, but you're right, we do have some pretty amazing mammals. Now, tying us back to the rest of the United States, we have deer. So we have a white-tailed deer. We have things like raccoons and possums, which are pretty common. But then we have the Florida panther. And we also have the Florida black bear. They love this higher, drier land. Not only this pine rockland, but also another ecosystem known as the hardwood hammock. It's a little more shaded. Our cats, like the Florida panther, and even our bobcats will climb up into the trees to remain high and dry for a good nap. Those are good ecosystems for them as well.
So the Florida panthers now, are they endangered?
They sure are. The Florida panthers, unfortunately, are endangered. Like I mentioned, they prefer higher, drier land, and there's not much of it left. As I mentioned, this ecosystem, which is one of their favorite, it's an endangered ecosystem. So if they don't have a lot of land, if they don't have a lot of space, that's one of the main things that living things need. You know, food, water, shelter, space. If they don't have the land, unfortunately, they don't have the higher survival rate.
I'm sure that there's challenges here for you. So what are some of those challenges that the rangers face here that we possibly can share with our students?
Yeah, so, you know, Everglades National Park is such a unique national park. We're literally just an hour away from Miami-Dade County, where there's so many residents, right? So we're really just next door to this metropolis. And we are the source of fresh water for the city. You see, our freshwater ecosystems, like the Sawgrass Marsh we were talking about, the floor of the Everglades is this rock that we're standing on, this limestone. Limestone is extremely porous. As that water sits on the limestone, it'll percolate through the limestone floor, filling the Biscayne Aquifer. And the Biscayne Aquifer is where us South Floridians, pull our fresh water from. But Everglades National Park is the only source to refill that Biscayne aquifer. So it is essential that that water sits on this limestone floor, for an extended period of time. So it has to meander slowly and sit on that limestone floor to give it time to percolate and fill our aquifer. Now, with that being said, you see, you may have heard of climate change, and it's no secret, Florida is surrounded by ocean water on 3 sides. Well, the ocean's going to rise, and what's going to make us most resilient to this rising ocean is one of the largest restoration projects that we're undergoing right now. It is the Comprehensive Everglades Restoration Project, SERP for short. And now the SERP project, what is going to help the Everglades become is actually more resilient, increasing our hydro period, meaning the water on the landscape for longer periods of time. That's going to help the plants, it's going to help the animals, but it's also going to help humans. It's kind of that fighting water with water. I know it sounds pretty silly, but if we have fresh water on the landscape, it will actually help to ward off some of that saltwater intrusion, especially because we have such a porous limestone.
So let me get this correct here. We can put water in the Everglades whenever we want to?
No. You see, it's not that easy. Of course, that's what makes it so complicated. The water in the Everglades has certain things that we have to be paying attention to, right? So originally, the water would come, it would start from way north of Lake Okeechobee, and it would meander, and it would take, years to reach the Florida Bay. Today, the water still travels, but not in the same way. And humans, we've controlled the water for a long time, but now we've learned. The Everglades is all about the timing of the water, the quality of the water, and the distribution. And those 3 things have to be just right. We have 2 seasons, something a little different than the rest of the United States. Our seasons are all about the water. We have a wet season and we have a dry season. Now, if we put water in the dry season, well, our nesting animals like the American alligator or some of our birds will really suffer. They will lose their nests.
Okay.
So the water has to be put into the Everglades just north of us at the right time. As far as distribution, well, you imagine if we flood an ecosystem like this, the plants and animals are not going to be happy, although it can be wet from time to time, but it has to be wet in the right areas of the park.
That is a huge problem. And it seems
sure
like
is.
it might be even unsolvable, but we know that the more diverse your group is, the more robust the conversations can be. So with that, all right, kids, the Everglades desire your help. We want you to do some research on this water restoration program. You're going to check out the website below where you're going to find a lot of information from the national park itself on what they do here and about the water program. And then I need you to come up with a business plan. Yep. We're not going to design anything right yet. We're not going to engineer a prototype yet. We want you to come up with a business plan. How can we assure that we're getting the water, the exact amount, at the right time, right? And that it's distributed equally or in the right places. So if you can come up with this business plan, now it may include that you have to engineer something, a prototype that will help the water be released at a different time. I don't know. I'm going to ask you to be the experts in this and come up with a business plan. We want you to tag us at Dacia 92, and we're going to also have you tag the Everglades National Park. And we want you to tag us at the National Park Service, because I think our kids are not the future, they're our present.
Indeed,
right? And
indeed.
we want to make sure that they're thinking about their future, because they're going to be the new caretakers of this. Now, this is related to Goal 13 of the UN Global Goals, which is climate change. And after you do that, yes, there's a part 2. After you do that and share it, take a look in your community, in your city, in your town, in your state. Where are you seeing evidences of climate change? It may not be in the water systems, but it may be something different. So we want you to think about how what you learn here will help you be a better scientist in your own community. What do you think?
I think that sounds like a great idea. And I'm just going to throw in another little
Absolutely.
thought for our students. I think it's important to also think about that water being clean. Very important. Our plants and animals need that clean water. In the Everglades, we have an oligotrophic system, which means no nutrients. So that's just something else for them to think about.
So that's goal 6, clean water. And that could be based on human impact, or it could just be a natural process. So you want to think about how you can get the water here at the right time in the right distribution, and that it's clean. Easy peasy, right? We're going to show you a couple pictures of alligators while we're here. So that's your prize for this.
That sounds great.
What we want them to do, we have 1 million kids that watch these, and a lot of them have decided that working in the national parks could be my career. It could be my passion. We like to say when your passion intersects your purpose, you have found what you're going to do the rest of your life.
That's it.
So if you wouldn't mind, just look at the camera. What can you tell these kids to start doing now to prepare for a possible job in the National Park Service?
So if you are interested in being a park ranger or even part of the National Park Service, I want you to start to think about national parks as small cities. You see, there's a job for everyone. If you love computers, we need computers. We have an IT department. If you love numbers, accounting and budget, that's the perfect place for you. Now, if you like to talk, this might be the uniform for you. And like me, if you like to work with children, well, there you go. You might be looking just like me. But lo and behold, there's opportunities for everyone. We have law enforcement and maintenance. The sky is the limit in the National Park Service.
We have a student in Tennessee that reached out and said he loves to mow grass. Like he started doing it for his family, now he does it for people. You can do that in a national park. You can take care of these lands, so that's even an option for kids.
Absolutely.
So don't sit in a box with this. There's many things you can do. Now, some of you are not ready to graduate yet, so you can't come yet, but you can start by solving problems. We want to thank you, Ranger Yvette, for having us here today and finding this really unique place that we would never have found, but it tells a huge story. We can't wait to see what you create with your business plan. So this is Dr. Drizzle on behalf of the National Parks Expedition Challenge and Ranger Yvette, and we're out of here.